Okay, folks. Make sure I've got everybody here. One more meeting, one last person in the meeting. Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting. Charles Dacus.
Here.
Ben Farley.
Here.
Willie German.
Here.
Tim Goodrow.
Here.
Mr. Jimmy Jordan.
Yeah.
Mr. Terry Leggett.
Here.
Mr. David Lillard.
Yeah. Here.
Sylvester Logan.
Here.
Mr. Jim Norton.
Here.
Mr. Claude Oglesby.
Here.
Mr. Tommy Perkins.
Here.
Mr. Kevin Powers.
Here.
Mr. Dale Reeves.
Here.
Mr. Steve Reeves.
Here.
Ms. Betsy Rice.
Here.
Mr. Ray Seals.
Here.
Mr. Robert Sills.
Here.
Mr. Bill Walker.
Here.
Mr. Larry Watkins.
Here.
Everybody's present and accounted for. At this time, we'll have our invocation by Commissioner Jimmy Jordan, and we'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance thereafter. Mr. Jordan.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we're thankful for this day. We're thankful for many opportunities and blessings you give us. We just ask you to lead us and guide us tonight as we discuss and make decisions about Fayette County that'll be pleasing to the county and to the people. Just watch over us and be with us as we go our separate ways. These things in your name we ask. Amen.
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 Please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the
to
flag
the flag
of the United
of the United
States of
States
America
of America,
and to the republic
to the republic
for which it
which
stands,
stands
one nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is there anybody who'd like to speak? Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to a non-agenda item? We've got a couple of folks in, I think they're sitting in the audience. Okay. At this time on our agenda, because of Governor Lee's executive order allowing us to remotely have our meetings, there is a resolution, a motion that is on your agenda page that I need somebody to make so that we can officially have this meeting.
Mayor Taylor, Commissioner Powers here.
Second, Farley.
All right, Commissioner Powers made the motion. Commissioner Farley seconded it. This will be a roll call vote. Vote yes if you're in favor of the meeting, if no, if you're not. Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Willard,
Yes.
Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Betsy Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals, Commissioner Ray Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Sills,
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yeah.
Okay, and that is. Motion passes, all in favor, none against. Next item on the agenda tonight is approval of minutes. Those are in your packet. Are there any additions or corrections to be made? Not hearing any, entertain a motion to approve.
So move, Perkins.
Second, Seals. Robert Seals.
Okay. Roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard, Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Betsy Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Watkins.
Yes.
Motion passes, all in favor, none against. Ladies and gentlemen, we're down to the place on elections and appointments confirmations. Earlier today, I sent out a list of notary publics that were, because of the cold weather last week, didn't make it into the packet. I have that so I can throw up on screen. Is anybody who needs me to do that for you? Okay, not hearing any. Entertain a motion to approve.
Mayor Taylor Reeves approves,
Okay,
makes a motion to approve.
all right, do a second.
Dale Reeves, second. Walker.
Okay, Commissioner Dale Reeves, second. There's another roll call vote, folks. Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner German, excuse me,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan, Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard, Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Betsy Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yes.
Motion passes, all in favor, none against. Next item on the agenda tonight is the approval of the Public Works bond for board member, Mr. James M. Reich. If you remember the last meeting or so, we appointed him to Public Works Board to fill an open seat. This is a formality, but you have to approve the bond so we can enter it into the minutes.
Move it be approved, Mr. Chairman. Oglesby.
Farley, second.
Okay, roll call vote on this one also. Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard,
Yes.
Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Betsy Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yes.
Motion and all in favor, none against. Next thing on the agenda tonight are your financial reports. I don't believe any made it into the packet this month because of last week's weather, but we'll send those out by email. Next thing are the reports from the offices. And there's a couple of things I need to go over with you. One thing I do need to report is that the county was closed on February 11th, and we were closed from the 16th to the 19th of last week because of snow and ice. As you're all aware, and I'm sure if you didn't leave the county for someplace else, you saw weather that we hadn't seen in probably 20 years. So anyway, things opened back up, warmed back up enough so we were back Monday. So I just want to let you know you're aware of that. Second thing is on COVID vaccine is that for those of you who have not received it, for those of you not received it now, and probably starting next week for those who have had one dose, you can go on the state website and enter in your appropriate information to the same place you've been going before, but they've changed the format. And you will be able to pick a time on a day to go if there's a slot available. They'll have so many slots per hour at Fayette Ware. so that you can have a little bit more, you can plan your day a little bit better and actually figure out if you're going to get a dose. So I want you, if you've got anybody who hasn't had it, who needs it, and I think it covers most of us on the commission, or getting close to most of us, is that if you're 65 and older, then you are in that group that can get it now. I see a few folks on here smiling that it's not in that group yet, which is, this is good. But anyway, if you're 65 and older, then you are in that group now who can get it. And my understanding is that they are only giving Moderna shots now. That has changed in the last a week or so, I believe. So the Pfizer, they're out of more or less out of the business on the Pfizer, I've been told. So if you've got any preference, yeah, that's what's out there. Also, the numbers on COVID numbers have reduced to 46 as of yesterday. Folks, that's the lowest we've been since June 15th of last year. And our new cases per day are just a little under 5 per 100,000, which works out to about 2, maybe a little bit more real cases. Of course, last week didn't hurt any because there wasn't any place to get a test. And there were a few places you get tested if you go to the doctor's office, but there was no vaccines given at all last week. So yesterday and today, they're trying to catch up on the vaccines, but everybody having to hunker down for a week or so. And I think the numbers are already going down significantly before that. That didn't hurt this, trying to get rid of this pandemic. So if we're on the downhill slope, I would say. About the time I say it, something will happen and I'll probably have to eat my words, but we're looking much, much better than we ever have for the last probably 4 or 5 months. So, and hopefully sometime in the near future, we'll be able to have a meeting in person again. They get notice yesterday that the governor will extend it for at least 1 more month through March, having these electronic meetings, digital meetings. So we'll probably do this for at least March, and then we'll see whether the permission is still pushed out there. Last thing I want to bring you up to date is that Charles in the office gave me a report today, and I didn't have time to send it out to you, but our sales tax numbers, it looks like somebody's giving away money because that's what our reports are showing. We have probably got twice as much per month than we expected to get. If this continues more than a couple of 3 months, yeah, well, if this continues much longer, we're going to be in really good shape. Of course, the report we got today was basically for December sales. So that was Christmas, and you expect that. But this is so much more than what we had thought, that we're going to be in good shape financially. And I've told several folks I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. So far, it hadn't shown up, and maybe it won't. But we've got a nice rainy day fund, a fund balance, whatever you want to call it, so that if we've got some hurdles in the future, we've got a cushion in there.
Amazing what happens when you don't shut the county down like our neighbors.
Well,
Amen.
Well, let me put it this way. Everybody stayed home, and Walmart, our Walmart was a big beneficiary of that. So yeah, everybody stayed home to spend money. Let me get to my agenda again. Let's see, the next item is
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Norton,
Commissioner. Yes, sir.
if you would, because you seem to have a closer contact group with Director Winfrey, with EMA, and with the health department.
Yes, sir.
I tip my hat to that team. They have been remarkable.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I wanted you to convey that, please.
I will. They have spent a lot of time out there, and they've got a dedicated, we've got about 2 or 3 folks who are really on the payroll. Everybody else out there is, at least from the county side, are volunteers. And there are some dedicated people. I am very appreciative and very happy they're out there. And anything we can do to pat them on the back later, I'm sure they'd appreciate it, but I will definitely pass that on. Sheriff's Office, I think Mr. Garcia was in the courtroom. Does he have anything? Looks like he may not be there right now.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to save the Yum update for the committee report, or do you have anything?
I'm clue. Oh, you're talking about which Yum Yum are we talking about?
Yum Yum property that we're trying to acquire for the
Okay.
shelter.
Yeah, I can give you an update on that. I was talking to Mr. Rosser, I see he's on the line tonight, so he might be able to add something to it. He is getting the proper paperwork. Long story short, there's a lien against the property that the landowner swears is not supposed to be on there, to the tune of a couple $100,000. He says it's supposed to have been settled. Well, I'm taking him at his word that it's been settled, but they've got to get legal paperwork taken care of before we take care of it. Mr. Rosser in his wisdom made sure we went through the title work and getting title insurance, and this is one of the things that popped up. So we're taking our time. I mean, I would love to have had this done 6 months ago, but I want to make sure it's right and we don't have any surprises. But that's where we are right now.
So we're at the same point we were 2 weeks ago.
Literally, yes.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Rosser's online. If he'd like to add something to that,
Please.
Ricky. I know he's not muted because he's.
No, he's reading something right now. Ricky Rosser.
Let me see if I can get him.
He's got his speaker turned down.
You want to call him?
Yeah, let me call him. Give him about 2 seconds.
Light on. It's hot over here.
Hello,
There he is.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead. Ricky,
Yeah,
they would like some update on the landfill. I mean, not the landfill, the animal shelter property.
animal shelter property. We're waiting to get the last lien released. I can hear you.
Okay. Is anything more than that? Can you give me detail? What I told them is that there was a large lien against it, that the landowner swears it's been taken care of, but we're waiting for the paperwork to be taken care of. Is that essentially it? And is there anything I misled them on?
Ricky, your computer speakers turned up? I don't think his computer speakers are turned up, man.
I'm in the county commission.
Okay, let me see if I can get him. This may not work.
Skip,
Ricky?
Skip.
Yeah, I've got you on speaker. Just talk.
Well, there's one lien left.
Is that the $200,000 lien that we were told about?
266,000.
And you think that could be released? Is there a time frame that you think it could be released?
They're going to release it. They just released one this month, and they didn't release the second one.
But you think that the second will be released within a month's time?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay. And then just so we understand, once that lien has been released, what are we looking at going forward?
Okay, when we get the lien release, we've already, and the architects, we've been talking with them, trying to schedule a time so that they can come out there and look at the property. They've already looked at the property first, to look at it again, and also go to Hardeman County and take a look at theirs, because that was the one we sort of looked at as sort of a model. And then to get with the Health and Welfare Committee and make sure we sort of go through that and get some preliminary designs pulled together that we think we can buy into. And over the next, once we get the property in hand, we can make fairly quick progress, probably 2 to 3 months. And then from then, it's just a matter of, if we can agree on the design and a price and a cost, then after that, it's just a matter of going to commission and getting approval and moving forward with the building. That makes it sound real simple, and it may take a little bit longer than what it sounds like, but that's essentially the process.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay. I'm gonna hang up on Mr. Rosser. Mr. Ricky, can you hear? Okay, Mr. Rosser's gone. All right, next item is the Board of Education. Dr. Versie called me tonight and said that the school board had a work session scheduled for tonight, a special one apparently. So she was not going to be able to make it, but she wanted to make sure that you understood that she was very much interested in talking with y'all. If there's ever anything you need from her, please don't hesitate to call. And she attending our meetings more often once they get past school issues. Today was the first day they had in person for, well, let me back up a second. Today's the first day of the first week. They're going to have 4-day in-person teaching for everybody who wants to attend it. And she said everything went smooth today. The only problem they had was buses, and that had more to do with snow and everything else than it did with kids. So we have, they're making Monday through Thursday, I think, in person. Friday is a work day for the teachers because of the way they're having to space them out, and to monitor the kids. They can't put the kids by themselves and go have either lunch or work time. So they're having the kids come 4 days, and the teachers will get on Friday and do their planning sessions and grading and things of that nature. Let's see, I don't see anybody else. I guess Public Works, Mr. Dowdy, I believe he's in the audience. And if he's got any update on the roads and how they fared over the week, I'd appreciate it.
No updates. The roads are clear. We're ready to go. Again, I guess we're ready for the next snow. But that's all I have. I hope there's not another one in 20 years.
Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda tonight's Development Committee. Commissioner Farley.
Yes, sir. The committee met on February 8th. Present was Mr. Reeves, Powers, Mr. Walker, Seals, Logan, and myself. The first thing was the Public Works 5-year average. I believe that's going to be handled under budget. Is that correct, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
All right. The second thing where we had a meeting on solar facilities concerning current regulation discussion. Mr. Pittner came before the committee and explained some of the current regulations and the reasons for those regulations and when they were approved and what has previously been discussed. We will begin a process of studying these regulations, talking with Mr. Pittner, and first the committee is going to go in-house through the development office with Mr. Pittner and find out where we stand on regulations, what other regulations are needed, and the definitions of solar farms and how to regulate them. We're also going to start a mapping system to map what different regulations will affect the area that will be used as solar farms. I believe this will be a long drawn out process because after we're through in-house, then we'll go outhouse, very good word. We'll go out of the Fayette County to places like Arlington, the solar farm on Fayette on I-40 and the one outside Jackson. And as of this moment, I just forgot their names. Also, there's one down in DeSoto County, I believe we're going to talk to and get the information from outside sources. So there's no information to give tonight other than that a discussion has started. It will be ongoing for months. Any ideas or facts that we learn will be brought before the development committee. No votes are going to be taken. This is just a general learning about solar farms and getting ready so a decision could be made based on the facts. Long answer to a short question.
Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda tonight's Health and Welfare Committee, Commissioner Reeves.
Mr. Mayor, Health and Welfare Committee met February 8th. Members present: Leggett, Perkins, German, Seals, Goodrow, and myself. We discussed and passed a Fayette County Commission on Aging contract. As you remember, over the last couple of years, we've had this in nonprofits, but we decided to do a contract with them. We will discuss that in budget. Also, Director Miller discussed our ambulance report. We had 439 calls in January. Most of these we figure is contributed to COVID. If you annualize those calls, we're going to have an increase of about 400 calls this year. So, and he's contributing to the increase to COVID. Also with that, revenues are up because of those calls, but also labor and overtime and maintenance and repairs. So there is a cost to that. Other than that, that's all we did discuss.
Okay. Yes, sir. All right, Personnel Committee. Please, Commissioner. Did not meet? Okay. Education Committee?
Education Committee did not meet either, but
Okay. Next item is Criminal Justice, Public Safety, Commissioner Rice. Ms. Betsy, you need to unmute yourself.
Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee met briefly on February 9th with all members present. Those were Commissioners Norton, Perkins, Leggett, Seals, Goodrow, and Rice. We reviewed the sheriff's report for January. The highest daily population in January was 91. I checked on it today and it was 77 inmates there today. We discussed the fire pumpers and the restructuring of the county debt. Mayor Taylor reviewed all of that with the committee, and I'm sure that there will be further discussion of that in the budget committee report tonight. But that's all we had on the 9th.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Next item on agenda tonight is a Budget Committee, Commissioner German.
Yes, we met February the 9th. All the committee members were present. Commissioner Steve Reeves, Logan, Oglesby, Ray Seals, Farley, Dacus, Lillard, Rice, and myself. I'm not going to read the minutes. We'll cover everything that's in the minutes as we go down the agenda tonight. First item, 6.2, this is General Fund 101, NRCS, which used to be called the Soil Conservation Service. They've asked to move $4,000 from their travel budget to the building maintenance. There's no change to the fund balance, and it was approved by the Budget Committee. I make a motion, we approve it.
Here a second.
Rice seconds.
Okay. This will be a roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus,
yes.
Commissioner Farley,
yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard, Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Betsy Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals,
Yes.
Bill Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes, none against, all in favor. Mr. Chairman?
Next item, 6.3, Public Works Fund 131. To meet the 5-year average that's required, an additional $65,827 has to be added to the Public Works budget from our sales tax revenue. This was approved by the Development Committee and also the Budget Committee. I make a motion, we approve it.
Norton second.
Mr. German, could I ask you to include that resolution that went with it on the back with that motion also?
Well, I'll go ahead and do that.
Or did you want to cover it separately?
You won't have to call all the names out. I actually probably should have done the resolution first, but let me spell it out. This resolution spells out that adjustment we just talked about. I want to read the last two items in that resolution though. Number one, the amount of sales tax budgeted as revenue for Public Works Fund 131 be adjusted by increasing the amount to $65,827 to a maximum of $657,499. and any additional revenue and sales tax in excess of $657,499 received by Fayette County government, not already allocated by law, be added to the county general fund 101. I make a motion, we approve that.
And Norton still seconds it.
Thank y'all. All right. Any other questions on that before we get any further? Okay, not hearing any. This will be a roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan, Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard, Commissioner Lillard, Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Betsy Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yes.
Commissioners, 19 in favor, none against. Motion passes.
Mayor, I see on the agenda, we've got this certification worksheet. Does that need any kind of approval or just for information on it?
That was information only, just so you can see how the numbers arrived at.
Okay. All right, we'll go to 6.4. Fayette County Commission on Aging has contracted to provide services to the county instead of being a nonprofit. And this summary shows the services to be purchased and how we're going to track it. It was approved by the Health and Welfare Committee and approved by the Budget Committee. I make a motion, we approve it.
Second, Reeves.
Motion is made by Commissioner German, second Commissioner Reeves, Steve Reeves. All right, there's a roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard,
Yes.
Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Betsy Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yes.
All right, motion passes, 19 in favor, none against.
All right, 6.5. This is debt restructuring. Fully refinancing all of our debt at this time would save approximately $3 million over the life of the bonds because the rates are better now. The mayor has asked that 1.8 million be added to that to purchase the fire equipment that we scheduled 2 years ago. So if we did that, that would leave about 1.2 million in savings, but it would include the purchase of the equipment with a lower debt payment. The resolution that the mayor sent out yesterday addresses the purchase of the fire equipment. Our budget committee recommended approval of this refinancing plan, but we did not make a recommendation on the proposed new fire equipment. So that's where we are tonight. I'm sure there's some questions and discussion. So Mayor, will you lead our discussion on this, please?
I will, and I want to give just a little bit of information. I spent today going back, trying to track down. It was my understanding or my memory that we had gone on record on a 5-year plan on replacing fire equipment. And I went back and actually we had talked about it at a safety committee meeting pretty in depth, but no motion was ever made. And the commission as a whole never voted on it. So that was my mistake. But I did give guidance to Mr. Scott Gibson from Cumberland Securities, who's our financial advisor. And I talked to Mr. Doug Earthman, who is our bond counsel, his lawyer, who puts together the appropriate documents. And I did ask them to add that into it. And now just a little bit of background on why I still think it's a good idea, and I'll let them go into any details on timing on how to proceed if you decide that you want to wait on it. One is that I don't think in the next year or two we're going to get rates as good as we've got now. That's just interest rates in general. Second, if we are able to do the fire equipment, and Chief Hartfield made a pretty convincing case on why we need to replace on this 25 and 30-year-old pieces of equipment, that we can give a much better price on 6 pieces of equipment than we will be 1 or 2 at a time. And plus, we don't know how our revenues are going to be in the next little while. And being able to lump all this together, our cost of issuance on putting this debt together is going to be lower spread across rather than if we did it in multiple units unconnected. So anyway, that being said, I want to introduce Mr. Scott Gibson, and I'll let him sort of go over the nuts and bolts on it, because I think there were some questions about cost from a couple of folks, interest rates, and how it's been put together. So Mr. Scott, it's up to you.
I am here to answer any questions. The initial resolution that the mayor sent out yesterday, not only does it authorize the fire equipment if you want to move forward, it also authorizes the conversion of a couple of capital outlay notes to bonds that we hope that we can refinance and save approximately $40,000 or so on. So that would also be part of that, which is why the amount is $3 million on that resolution, because it includes those 2 notes that you currently have outstanding, but that we want to convert, and then adds the fire trucks in if you do want to move forward on that. The detailed resolution does authorize $26,325,000. It refinances all the debt. We will be issuing that debt in probably 3 bond issues is what we're proposing. We're doing 3 separate bond issues so that we can issue bank qualified debt for all 3 pieces. And that way we can get the lowest interest rates possible. There is a little more cost to doing 3 separate issues versus 1, but the bank qualified rates more than offset that cost and provide more savings to the county by going that route. So we are looking at saving approximately $3 million. Hopefully, rates have eased up in the last week or so, but I think the numbers that we have shared with the county still should be good. So I'll be happy to answer any questions on this whole master plan, but it is a prime opportunity. Rates are still very attractive, and but they are starting to ease up, and they probably will continue to ease up with all the new stimulus money that the feds are proposing, and with the success of the vaccinations that are starting to take place, and the virus going down, probably, as you can imagine, will lead to more economic activity as far as being out, restaurants and stuff, versus where it's been. I think people are hopeful that will allow the economy to continue to grow.
2 questions, Scott, that I know I've been asked, and I'll just go ahead and get them on the table. One, can you go through the cost of issuance, the breakdown on that, what's involved in it, the different parts of it? And second, what will the overall interest rate go from, and what will be the new one, at least for predicted rate?
So the first bond issue, we will be refunding the 2011 bonds. That is approximately, 2011 and 2012 A bonds. That will end up being about a $9.9 million bond issue. We have budgeted approximately $99,000 for the cost of issuance, which will pay my firm, pay Doug Earthman as the bond counsel, will pay the Moody's rating fee, will pay all the distribution of all the documents and other things that are involved with the deal. That's approximately 1%, which is pretty standard. And then we've budgeted about $135,000 for the underwriter's discount. We will be bidding these bonds out to all the local banks and all the institutions out of Memphis and across the state and across the country. So basically, we will, just like you would bid out pipe or sheriff cruisers or something, when you go buy them, we will be bidding out the debt. And so the firm that bids the lowest interest rate, i.e. gets you the lowest cost of funds to maximize your savings, will be the winning bidder. And so the firms that typically bid are FTN Financial out of Memphis, Raymond James out of Memphis, and then we have several other firms in various locations, R.W. Baird, Bank of America, SunTrust, Truist. Those type, those big commercial and regional type banks all typically will try to submit a bid. So, and then we may actually have some local bids come in too. So those are the two numbers on the A bonds. That we are going to be probably going to about a 1% rate on the A bonds, and that will be coming down from approximately 2.9% on those two. So the second series of bonds we're going to do, we're probably going to be right around the 1.3, 1.4 range on the estimated, about 1.5 probably on the estimated cost. We'll be refunding the 2013 bonds on that one. And that rate will be coming down from about 3.9 also. So right at 4%. So 4 to 1.5. The cost on that is essentially 89,000, and the cost, and 94,000 is what we budgeted on the underwriter's discount. That underwriter's discount is just a budget amount. And when we do accept those bids, that cost is figured into the rate to determine who bid the lowest cost. So that amount could vary, but we do calculate that. And then the last bond issue would include converting the notes, converting the 2012 B bonds, the 2014 bonds, and any new money for fire trucks. If you approve that tonight, that will be that these bond issues have to be separated by 15 days under federal tax law. So it will be a good 35, 40 days probably before we get to the C issue on the fire trucks. And we will be bringing that debt cost down from the about 2.75% also into that 1.5 type range, and try to save some money on that one. And the cost on that one is once again about 99,000 on the cost of issuance, and I got about 100,000 budgeted for the underwriter's discount. So all those savings that that you may have seen or that the committees may have talked about is all net of those costs. So that $3 million is net of those costs that we just discussed.
That's good.
Norton,
Mr. Norton? Yes, sir.
yes, well, actually, a couple of them. Has
Hold
this,
on. I'll call you back.
okay, has any of this already gone through committee? And if so, the purchase of the, or projected purchase of the fire equipment to Commissioner Rice, has that come before our committee? I may have missed some of that down there.
Let me address that.
I don't want the cart pulling the horse.
Yeah, let me address that. Like I said, part of that was my lack of memory, or what I thought happened and didn't. Talked to Mr. Gibson tonight, and I think he just went over the timing on some of this. The resolution, you have two resolutions before you tonight. One is to refund everything, which is, we all know we want to do that to get the issuance, to get their costs down. The other one would be to allocate the $3 million, and he went over what that covers to take care of the fire trucks. The fire trucks, if it was passed tonight, can have a caveat on it that would mean that it would come back to commission to vote to approve it, to move forward. What's in that resolution is a notice to the public that we are thinking about doing this, that is 20 days long. Scott, correct me if I'm wrong. And that if you approve that tonight, that would start that period moving forward. So we will give us a month to come back, go through safety committee, your recommendation there, have conversations with the budget committee to make sure that they're good with that purchase and what it would look like overall and how we'll pay for it and everything. And then come back next month and finalize this purchase. Now that's because I don't want to catch anybody off guard. Now, like I said, I thought we were in a different place than we are, but that would allow everybody to move forward with both projects. If on the off chance that next month you come back and for whatever reason the commission says no, then it stops and we refinance the debt and we move on, and we just go budget by budget after that.
Okay, I'm just trying to head off the questions from the.
No, and I agree, and I appreciate that. Yeah.
All right.
Commissioner Walker, yes, sir.
Did we not, in our last budget, the fire trucks, was that not what we approved, that we're going to finance those vehicles, and that was what we put in the budget?
We did. We put it in that 1 year's budget. You remember in to get my budgets correct. I think 2019's budget, we had 2 pieces of equipment. Last year, which is this year, we had 2 more pieces of equipment. What Chief Hartfield put out there was 5 years of 2 each. So I got 3 more years of equipment, which is 6 pieces, which is in dollars terms is like $600,000 a year, which is about $1.8 million. That's where my number came from. And incorporating all this together, we get a prepayment discount if we pay up front, which we'll have the money to do. And we'll get a volume discount by doing it all at one time, which is what we're going to push for if we get it. Plus, we'll have it taken care of and incorporated with the overall debt. So that was my reason for moving forward. But I understand folks may want to question, at least think about it. And I don't want to, like Commissioner Norton said, put the cart before the horse. So that's sort of the way you may want to go to after tonight.
Mayor, my next question will be on ambulances. I think I read in what I saw, we had some money put in there for ambulances. Are we looking at buying some more, leaving one in for every year in the budget, or where are we at there?
No, the language in that resolution was written so that if you decided you wanted to do something, you could. It was written loosely. My intention is pretty much just fire trucks. I think Chief Hartfield, and I think Chief Hartfield's on here somewhere, is 3 pumpers after this year, 3 pumpers and 3 tankers, one of each year for the next 3 years.
Mayor, it's 4 engines and 2 tankers, total of 6.
Okay, I'm staying corrected.
Yes.
But it's 6 pieces of equipment, 2 each year.
That is correct. Yes, sir.
But the description, I know what you're talking about. I was not envisioning ambulances, and I think Mr. Miller's on. After he gets his next ambulances, we're going to be in pretty good shape for at least a year or so. Now, he'll have to say where we are in the rotation, but I know we just got through purchasing one, and we got a couple more coming. So, we're going to be a pretty new fleet.
I understand that. We don't need to get back in the position we were on ambulances 4 or 5 years.
No. And I think the commission's been really good about working with me to get these taken care of. And we got a pretty good solid fleet right now.
Mayor?
Commissioner Farley?
Yes. For those of y'all who weren't on the board, and the previous chief gave us a very good rundown of how dire need was for new pumpers and engines. And that was 5 years ago. And so there are even worse need for them now. We may be caught up or near caught up with ambulances, but we are way behind on fire equipment for the firefighters. Some of their equipment is only halfway working, I guess is the best way to describe it. For that reason, Mayor, can I make a motion that we accept these resolutions?
We've got a vote. And now this is where Mr. Gibson and Mr. Earthman comes in. I'm not sure. Can we do one vote for both of them, or do we need to vote on those individually?
We need to do each resolution separate and do a roll call vote. I do recommend adopting both resolutions tonight. We'll get that 20-day protest period, and there is nothing precluding, but as you mentioned, if the commission does want to have more discussion, they can, because the fire truck issue will not be, we will not be issuing that debt before the next county commission meeting next month, because we're going to focus on the other 2 pieces first.
Okay.
Mayor,
Mr. Chairman.
Farley here. Did you say the resolution should be the first one voted on, sir?
Yeah, I don't think there's any particular order they have to go in. Just both of them have to be voted on. Hold on a second.
I'll make my motion on the first resolution.
This is Doug. Let me make a clarification on a couple of things. One is that the reason ambulances were included in the initial resolution is that part of the proposal is to refinance the 2 capital outlay notes issued last year, one of which was for emergency vehicles. So in order to convert capital outlay notes to bonds, we have to go back and do an initial resolution in order to issue bonds to convert those capital outlay notes to bonds. So ambulance is in there for that reason, even if we don't use more money for ambulances. Second is the order is important. First, we need to adopt the initial resolution for the 3 million, and because that is mentioned in the second resolution to include new money into one of those bond issues. So the $3 million initial resolution comes first, and then the refinance larger resolution comes second. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Farley, would you change your,
That's exactly what I said in my motion, $3 million one. He just quoted from me. Thank you.
okay, that's good.
Commissioner Powers here, second.
All right.
All right, discuss, Mayor,
Yes, sir.
is Charles on tonight?
Charles was on here somewhere a minute ago. Yes, sir.
I'm on.
Hey, Charles, just like your opinion, you're our budget director. You know these numbers. Give us your opinion before we vote.
Ideally, you wouldn't have to issue debt to purchase the equipment, and you would space it out over time so they don't all come due at one time, which is kind of what we're dealing with. But since we were already looking at issuing debt over time, issuing it all at once with a lower interest rate makes sense. So I think it's a good idea to go with. And we're on track for paying off some of our debt in the mid 2030s. We should be debt free if we don't issue anything else. And of course, lowering interest rate is only going to help that.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you. Call for question.
Okay.
Mayor
Question?
Taylor, this is
Mr.
Commissioner
Steele?
Seals. I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I just want to clarify that the $3 million proposed savings is regardless of how the second vote gets appropriated. The 3 million is a 3 million savings, whether we allocate $1.8 million for the pumpers or not, or if we don't do that, it's going to be less than 3 million.
It's 3 million is, you know, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but 3 million is if we just refinance only, it's 3 million.
That is correct. We're looking at right at $3 million of savings by refinancing all the debt, regardless of whether we do the fire trucks or not.
And then if you do the fire trucks, you add that on top of it, you subtract that from it. So you have a net of 1.2. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, 1.2.
All right. Well, it's in that ballpark. Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Leggett.
the $3 million in savings, is that net after the charges for the refinancing?
That is correct.
Okay.
Any further questions? Okay, this will be a roll call vote on the initial resolution. Commissioner Dacus?
Yes.
Commissioner Farley?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Leggett?
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard?
Yes.
Commissioner Logan?
Yes.
Commissioner Norton?
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves?
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves?
Yes.
Commissioner Betsy Rice?
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals?
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals?
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker?
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins?
Yes.
Anyone wish to change their vote? Not hearing any. 18 in favor and 1 abstention. Motion passes. The next item would be Commissioner German is a refunding resolution. Make sure I've got these in the correct order. This would actually be refunding all the debt we currently have. Does anybody have any questions before a motion's made?
I have a question. Did you say all the debt we currently have?
Yes, sir. Now, Mr. Gibson, am I correct on that?
I think I left out one capital outlay note that pays off this year that we are not including. Other than that, I think it's every piece of debt that you have. So it's every bond issue and then a couple notes. There may be one bond or one little note that's left that we didn't do, but it's immaterial.
Okay.
Budget committee did recommend this for approval. I make a motion, we approve it.
Oglesby seconds.
Commissioner German made a motion, Commissioner Oglesby seconded. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Logan?
have any of this stuff gone through the county attorney?
We've run it through, this is a bond issue, whatnot. I've shown it to Mr. Rosser, but Mr. Earthman is our bond attorney for overseeing this.
Yeah, but it look like we don't have any paperwork on it. And I'm not seeing any paperwork on this. And I'd like, before I make a decision like that, I would like to see exactly what are we doing.
Commissioner, didn't you get your packet? Oh, that I had everything in there.
The stuff that you sent out is not in here. What the bond lawyer is saying.
It was in your packet, and then Skip sent out the initial resolution, I think later, but it was in the original packet, the resolution they're voting on now.
Commissioner, did you receive your paper packet over the weekend?
Yeah, I received the paper packet, but these numbers that I'm not seeing these numbers. Well, okay.
Starts page 62.
Okay, that was my question, but okay, good enough.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Okay.
In case somebody wants to know how much money we're talking about, just so everybody knows, it's $26 million. That about right?
Sir.
Correct.
Okay, this is
Goes
roll
from
call.
26 million to 23 million. That's after the savings, or is it 29 to 26?
Now, the savings is on the interest component, obviously. So we're taking, we have about 26 million of debt outstanding. We're going to have about 26 million afterwards, but plus or minus a few $100,000. But the $3 million comes from lowering the interest rate. So you save that over time. So the principal amount really won't change substantially. Just like when you do a home mortgage, if you have a $100,000 mortgage, you don't say you owe 200,000, 100,000 mortgage, or the principal 100,000 interest. You just say I owe 100,000 on my house. So you have 26 million of principal approximately, and we're going to refinance all that and save about $3 million worth of interest over time.
I spoke before I thought.
It's a good question.
All right, if there is no further questions, there's a roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus?
Yes.
Commissioner Farley?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Leggett?
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard?
Yes.
Commissioner Logan?
Hey.
Commissioner Norton?
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves?
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves?
Yes.
Commissioner Betsy Rice?
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals?
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Sills?
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker?
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins?
Yes.
Does anyone wish to change their vote? Motion passes, 18 in favor, 1 abstention. Commissioner German?
6.6, scroll way down to 251. This resolution establishes a redistricting committee to provide proposals to the commission once the census data has been provided to the county. And I'm going to read section 1 and 2 right quick of this resolution. Fayette County Legislative Body does hereby establish a redistricting committee to prepare suggested redistricting plans to be presented to and voted on by the entire Fayette County Legislative Body. In section 2, the redistricting committee shall consist of the following members: Josh Tapp, our Fayette County Administrator of Elections; Ray Taylor, Fayette County Mayor; 1 school board member; 1 county commissioner; and 1 other. And the budget committee did recommend approval of this, and I make a motion we approve it.
Oglesby seconds.
Okay, motion's made and motions by Commissioner German, seconded by Commissioner Oglesby. Any discussion? All right, roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus?
Yes.
Commissioner Farley?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Leggett?
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard?
Yes.
Commissioner Logan?
Yes.
Commissioner Norton?
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves?
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves?
Yes.
Commissioner Betsy Rice?
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals?
Yes.
Mr. Robert Seals?
Yes.
Mr. Bill Walker?
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins?
Yes.
Motion passes 19 in favor, none against.
Mr.
All right,
Chairman,
the only other bit, I'm sorry, go ahead.
who will select the county commissioner and the other and when?
We'll put those on next month, Commissioner, and I'll bring you a couple of recommendations and then sort of go from there. One gentleman I've sort of thought about was Mr. Biff Lewis, who's retired from the county, from the circuit Chancery Court, clerk and master, as the other. Then needs to be one county commissioner and one school board member, since county commissioner will be decided. I mean, those are the two areas that will be really affected by the decisions of the redistricting. That way you have some input from both bodies.
So we will approve them when you bring the names, right?
Yes,
We
sir.
still have a chance. Okay.
Yes, sir.
The only other business we had, Mayor, it was in the minutes, was we had to set the date for the audit committee to meet and go over the past year's audit. And that date will be March the 11th at 5:30 p.m. That's all we had.
Yes, sir. All right. And let me make sure I'm not missing anything. A couple of things I just want to throw your attention to. This is under new information only. Is that I think this month is UT Extension Service Month, Proclamation Month. And we've signed one for Jeff By, so that's for him, and to make sure that everybody sort of pays special attention to all the good work they do. And then we've dropped in two reports on pet data that we didn't have at the time of Health and Welfare Committee. One's a summary report on the calls, and the other one's a fee report on the amount of money that's coming. Outside of that, Commissioner, that's all I have for you. If there's no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Good road, second.
Yes.
And yes, Commissioner Seals.
Commissioner Seals, sorry.
All right, that's fine. All those in favor, please sign off.